So the second match between Mumbai Indians and KKR is done and dusted. Mumbai Indians have not won their first match in the IPL in a long time. What I meant is when they play a IPL campaign, they often don't win the first match. But after I think almost close to 6, 7 years, or maybe even more than that, they've actually done that. The manner of their victory, I would say, was not entirely convincing. It was just the sheer star power that they had both in their batting and their bowling lineups that definitely carried them through and over KKR. Now, KKR really wasn't at fault. Man to man, even before the match began, you kind of knew that this was not the right matchup. The bowling lineup is just, it might be experienced, don't get me wrong, but it's just not the same quality as that what you see in Mumbai Indians. They did have a fantastic start, did KKR, and they kind of, I think it was almost at the eighth to the 10th over when things started to kind of slow down a little bit. So they got to about 100 runs even before the ninth over began, I think, or in the ninth over. And after that, in the next 11 overs, at a time where you want to kind of go up in the net run rate, kind of, if you may, they kind of almost stayed the same. Sure, they did lose some wickets. Sure, you did have Bumrah and Trent Bolt that you had to deal with while bowling, but that push that was needed just didn't come. And I think it was a key moment around about the 13th or the 14th over, those two overs, in fact, before the second timeout, where Bumrah was bowling and he bowled a beautiful over full of Yorkers. And they got only 5 runs of that over. And then Trent Bolt comes back right after that. Very good captaincy. You get your two best bowlers, kind of break the rhythm over there. And Trent Bolt also follows up with an equally good over, full of block holes and Yorkers and white balls and stuff. And they kind of just sucked the momentum out of the innings a little bit of KKR. And towards the end, you kind of couldn't help but feel that, yes, you did have Rinku on one side, but needed like a proper power hitter, and that power just wasn't there. That power hitting just wasn't there, and very few sixes, very few sixes. You did have um, the odd boundary going here and there, but it was more about timing and stuff. You had very few people who were able to clear the boundary at will, and often in such high scoring games, it comes down to those small things as to how many sixes can you hit, and KKR just didn't have the answer there. I'd like to say that it was because of the kind of bowling that Bumrah did, but at the same time, if you think about it, I think his 4 overs went for something like 36 or 37 runs, which is okay. That's not bad. The thing is, it wasn't just Bumrah who was bowling well. You had others also who were bowling very well over there. All said and done, 220 is a good score for a T20 match. Not denying it, but this is the Wankhede, and the pitch is, it's not a featherbed where it's a nightmare or a graveyard for the bowlers. Nothing of that sort. But it's just very good for stroke play, and the ground itself also is not very huge. So like a 65 or a 66-meter hit often takes you for a six. Okay, so the margins for error are so much lesser. You get lesser spin and perches as a spinner, and KKR was a team that was heavily reliant on two spinners doing well, Sunil Narayan and Varun Chakravarti, both of whom definitely not have not had the best of games. Varun Chakravarti has probably not had his best game in a long time. I see Varun Chakravarti bowl, and I just feel a person who is kind of like on a downward spiral of sorts, where he really doesn't have an answer as to what's going on, and he doesn't know what to do different. So you'd think that all he needed was a break to kind of recover and get his senses back, but I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. These matches are just going to come one after the other, and if he doesn't find his mojo back, it's going to be a long IPL for Varun Chakravarti, guys. Sunil Narayan not bowling his 4 overs. I'm not sure what kind of captaincy is that. How can you have a guy like Vaibhav Arora who's leaked, I think, 13 or 14 runs an over? And how can you not bowl his entire quota of overs and not have a guy like Varun Chakravarti finish his quota of 4 overs? I would want to say, okay, that is Rinku's first time as captain, probably first time as vice captain. He didn't really expect to become captain, but maybe because of that, he kind of had a miscalculation. I'm not sure. But what do you have coaches for? Coaches need to step in and correct these things, but that didn't happen. And ultimately, at the end of the first innings, I did feel that yes, it was a good score. Don't get me wrong, but it was 25 runs too short, and that's exactly what happened. Just add 25 to this equation. I think it was the last 3 overs and 20 runs to get. Imagine last 3 overs, 45 runs to get. Different ball game altogether. And I think before we kind of wind down on things, there's three things we have to talk about. Three good, very good performances. First and foremost, Lord Shardul Thakur, hats off. Um, when you analyze Shardul's bowling, it seems very innocuous and very harmless. But if you just think about the kind of deliveries he bowled to get those wickets he got, almost all of them were very, very intelligent deliveries. The one to Cam Green especially was fantastic. He had a fielder on the square boundary, and he wantedly bowled a slower ball so that Cam Green has zero pace to deal with. Bowled it wide and made him and forced him almost to hit in that direction. And lo and behold, Cam Green did all the best he could and just ended up screwing a catch over there. The other wicket also that he bowled was the first wicket he got. It was a slower ball that was kind of wide off the off stump, Finalen, and he made him drag it. He made him reach out to it, and he couldn't help but just drag it as a simple catch, to mid on or long on. I'm not sure what it was. So it was really, really good bowling, actually, if you think about it. And it's often, I mean, it's strange, no? 220 runs on this side, 220 runs on that side, 450 runs. 450 runs are being scored. And who does the man of the match go to? A bowler. Which goes to show that, sure, T20 cricket is all about the high scoring runs, all about the sixes, all about the fours, and all those batting theatrics. Not denying it. Your entire team needs to contribute towards batting. But in a match where the average run rate was more than like 11 or 12, the man of the match went to a bowler. And ultimately, it was the team that bowled the best that ultimately had the last laugh. So KKR's bowling, I don't know where and how they're going to recover, to be honest. The golden question, of course, is Cam Green going to be bowling or not? And uh, Ajinkya Rahane seems to be equally frustrated with the whole thing, where he said that I'm not sure. You should ask Cricket Australia if he's going to be bowling, which is kind of like out there. But anyway, that's what he says. So it's very clear that in their plans, in their minds, they clearly had Cam Green down for 4 overs and coming in at number one. That's the reason why they paid him the big bucks. That's the reason why he's there. And the fact that he's not able to do it, and quite clearly, I think he wants to do it, but the board is not letting him do it, definitely has thrown a spanner in the works over there. So if you did have him contribute those 4 overs, then I think your whole combination is going to be kind of different. But still, you don't have. I mean, it is kind of sad, to be honest. Their three first line choices for pace bowlers are not there. Think about it. You don't have Mustafizur Rahman, who pretty much has gone out because of politics. Bangladeshi players not happening right now. Second thing is Harshit Rana, who was a dead surety in your playing level, is now not there. It was good for the bat, good for the ball for this inning, for this entire series, probably. And also Akashdeep, who was definitely a starter, is now not there. So in place of Akashdeep, you have Vaibhav Arora. In place of Mustafizur, you have Blessing. And in place of Harshit Rana, you have probably Sandeep Tyagi, I'm not sure, coming in as a substitute. So probably you would not have wanted these three people who are playing in your first playing 11, and you wanted the other people. But that's where bench strength is so important. And I think that's where teams like Mumbai Indians, teams like CSK, teams like RCB have done well, because they've not picked just one playing 11, they've picked a couple more options beyond that. Sure, it is hard, it is not right to say that KKR did not plan enough, but the entire IPL, I think they're going to be up against it because Not because their batting is not great. In fact, their batting is really good, but it's mainly because they don't have enough depth and power in their bowling, and that's where they're going to struggle. And especially because your two biggest star weapons is Sunil Narayan and Varun Chakravarti. Sure, this pitch did not favor your spinners the most, not denying that. But Sunil Narayan will continue to be a threat. He's a wily customer. Although this match, you would debate that he wasn't really at its best, but still giving him 3 overs is absurd. You should have definitely made 4 hours out of him. And Varun Chakravarti is lost, man. I mean, we just spoke about him, so not going to get into that again. But yeah, it's a long way forward for KKR. And the two dropped catches, man, that really hurt, didn't it? So it happened at a time it really should not have happened. And you still had a chance to kind of rein things in. All it takes is a couple of good overs and the pressure's back on MI. But that just didn't happen. Both of the catches, I think, were running catches where the fielders really weren't stable, and they both were tough in their own rights. One was him running back, and the other was the other guy running back in. So you want to say that sure they made an attempt, but you also want to say that these kind of catches have to be taken at this level, else obviously you're not going to be really on the winning side, which is pretty much what happened. Um, Talking about the batting, let's just pause for a second and let's just talk about how fantastic Rohit Sharma was. This is the first time we are really seeing him after he's lost all this weight. I think, no, I think we've seen him a little bit before to maybe the ODIs also, but he looks fantastic. The timing is just not deserted him at all. I'm not saying that because he's lost weight, but I'm just saying he's looking a lot fitter and he's looking a lot more committed. And there's definitely that hunger, man. The 2027 World Cup is going to be one heck of a ride. So excited for that. And we're not even anywhere close to it. Anyway, I'm deviating. But the point is, um, Rohit Sharma was an absolute visual treat. And it's fantastic to note that the guy has hit 556s and in IPL, and you don't even feel like he has muscled even one shot. Almost every single shot he hits is either using the pace and the angle of the bowler and some exquisite timing. I mean, timing is everything when it comes to Rohit Sharma, and it was on visible on display once again. Um, it never seemed like he was slowing down. It always seemed like there is a 4 or a 6 whenever he wanted, wherever he wanted, with whichever bowler he wanted, and that was scary as an opposing player. I mean, I don't know how one can ever deal with that. I'm not sure if Rohit Sharma has a genuine weakness of against one particular kind of bowling. It's probably the kind of ball which most batters are susceptible to, which is fifth stump, sixth stump, and kind of niggling away. He just kind of does a little bit. So right when he was starting is when I thought he was most susceptible. He blocked a couple of balls. I think the third ball also he ended up blocking, and it was Blessing Muzrabani who was bowling, and then he kind of went for he was 0 of 3, going to face his fourth ball. You knew he was going to go for a release shot. He went for a wild hike, and the ball just narrowly missed the stumps, and went away for 4. You kind of just knew that that was the chance. Had he got out then, different story. But now that he got lucky, he was like, all right, this is my day, and he really made it count. Ryan Rickleton, no surprises, and the South African who's fantastic at cricket. South Africans seem to have these superstars just popping out of nowhere. South Africa is the new T20 powerhouse of cricket. I'll say it. The players are fantastic, and Ryan Rickleton is no exception. It almost seemed like there was nothing that he was doing wrong, and his run out at the end, I mean, it was kind of a freak thing that happened. He got stuck behind Blessing, that huge frame of Blessing, if you may, and it was a direct hit. I don't think even the the fielder expected that to happen to be a direct hit, but so it was. But Ryan Rickleton also played a really good innings. Although some of his shots you would say are very very high risk options. On another night, if he wasn't so lucky, he would have easily been out on the boundary numerous occasions. But smaller boundary sizes, some nice ocean wind blowing, definitely you get more bang for your buck at Wankhede, and he totally capitalized on that. To be able to keep a player like Quinton de Kock out of the team says a lot, and it'll take a lot for MI to move away from Ryan Rickelton. Let me put it that way. Surya Kumar Yadav, again, I think he's also one of those Indian players who kind of went under the radar. We weren't really able to get his full, ability in the World Cup. And even now, even though he came in and kind of smashed the ball here and there, that was obviously his plan. That was obviously his role. On any other day, if his timing was right, that ball would not have landed in Rinku's hands. It would have, at the boundary line, it would have ended up 10 rows back. So Suryakumar Yadav, I think, is still not quite, discovering his form the way he wants to. And I'm sure, it's just around the corner. Tilak Verma, he did hit a four right when he came in, and there was a four here and there, not denying that. But there is a problem, I feel, with Tilak Verma sometimes, that there seems to be some phases where he kind of loses momentum and he kind of lets those singles and doubles kind of drift along. I think that is something which he needs to be aware of. I'm not saying that his strike rate is low or anything of that sort, but there is a difference between striking when it's high pressure and striking all along. I feel sometimes he's forced to take the high pressure route because he's not able to strike all along, and this might be one of the reasons as to why he is slightly being demoted down the order, even in the Indian setup. But it is something which I think Tilak needs to work on. He is definitely a very, very talented guy, a very, very bankable option. Don't get me wrong. But just something which I feel he needs to work on a little bit is maintaining the tempo, right? So I think he was I think he was 11 of 9, but the fact is he was 4 of 1 ball. So if you think about it, he went through the next 8 balls, scoring only 7 runs. And at a time when it's kind of crunch time and you're going towards the end, that does not help. To add to it, he lost a couple of wickets on the other end. And so then you can say that, okay, things are kind of heating up, and it kind of always happens when things are slowing down at the other end. So something to be aware of. Hardik Pandya, of course, I think even if Hardik Pandya is not in the best of forms, his confidence levels are so high that he'll always sail through. So pretty much that was the same thing this today too. The match was really a no contest, to be honest. Again, full house, sold out, a lot of good viewership, a lot of good talk about it. IPL is doing well, but you would expect a better contest between the two teams. These two teams definitely was not the best, best two teams in terms of abilities, in terms of power and stuff. You'd want to think that in a bowling lineup like with the likes of Bumrah, with the likes of Trent Bolt, with the likes of all these other stars, the least you would expect is a guy like Shardul Thakur to be the point of difference. But that's what T20 cricket is all about. Very often, what you feel is your weakest link can turn out to be your strongest asset, right? And that was on full display today. So, really happy for MI to start off their campaign with a win. I feel MI is one of those really good sides. Obviously, it's won 5 titles, so they are a very good side, and they're a side to beat. But at the same time, had the same MI gone on to another pitch and had there been a more difficult opponent, I just feel that there's too many chinks in such. When you have such a star-studded lineup, I feel there's too many chinks in the armor because people don't depend on each other. People are kind of are superstars within themselves. So KKR, lots of places where they can improve. And Mumbai Indians, good start, but I'm sure they won't be resting on their laurels very long. So that's it for today. See you guys with tomorrow's match.